We're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of the Video Vantage, where we chat all things marketing communications. Today, we're joined with a very special guest, Flavia, and our topic is going to be building a consistent and memorable visual presence. Once again, I'm Haley. I'm joined by my co host, Mike. And Flavia, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. So, hi, I'm Flavia. I'm a graphic designer and illustrator from Brazil. And I've been working with graphic design for 7 years now, which has been a really long time. And yeah, I love all things branding, design, illustration. And yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. And if you've ever been on the Biteable website or seen Bitable's brand anywhere out and about, Flavia is fully responsible for the way it looks, our lovely templates, the look of our website, how everything runs. She really has touched every single piece of Biteable and made it beautiful. So, Flavia, thank you for that. And let's jump right in with our questions here. Flavia, can you describe your process for developing a visual brand? Like, how do you go about selecting colors, fonts, and design elements? And for context, Biteable went through a rebrand, about a year ago? And Flavia was fully responsible for the rebrand. So maybe you want to walk us through how you approached that?
Yeah, sure. So usually we start a branding or a rebranding project with a brief where we think about the target audience, what is our goal or targets with this rebrand or with a new brand, and from there we'll do some like a little bit of research on the market and on competitors to see what other people are doing and kind of get an idea of possible directions that we could go for. So, for example, for Biteable, I think one of the biggest things of the rebrand was that we were changing a little bit our target audience. So that was really important to kind of find this new look and feel that really matched the type of clients, customers we were going to sell our product to. So yeah, so once we do this little bit of research and understand a little bit more of what we're trying to say, what is the concept behind it, just go to the drawing board, be it your iPad or a piece of paper, and just start brainstorming some ideas, which is like usually the most fun part of the project. You just start playing with concepts and what you can do. Obviously, for Biteable, we were not changing our logo itself. We were just changing the overall look and feel of our website and social media and all of these things. So that kind of phase, we skipped ahead a little bit and went straight to the playing with colors, playing with shapes, playing with how we were going to really express our brand. And that's really important because just the logo in itself, yeah, it can bring a lot of meaning, but you need all the accompanying kind of resources that will go on your website, social media, and all of these things to really express your brand fully. So that's when like the fun part of playing with fonts and colors comes in. I think is a lot about what you're trying to say. So for example, if you're working on a more corporate brand, you're going to look for maybe a cold color palette that has more shades of blue or green that kind of inspire that trustworthy, a little bit more serious environment. Or let's say if you're working with a brand that is just handmade, something that is natural, you're going to go for a warmer color palette. You're going to look for fonts that have kind of a hand drawn look and feel. So it's really about matching what you're trying to say with the graphics that kind of give that same energy, that same vibe. And once you play around with that, like for quite a long time, and you experiment with a lot of different things, then you just present your usually two or three options to your client, or in case of Biteable, to the company, and discuss which direction you want to go to. And usually I just try to explore two different um, directions that then I can present and say, look, this one is a little bit friendlier, let's say this one is a little bit more serious, and get a feel of what people are after. And then from there, you can either just have one logo that everybody loves or one brand that everybody loves and says, yeah, this is the one. Or maybe sometimes they say, yeah, I like the colors from this option, but I prefer the font from this option. Let's bring it together and create a new option like this. But yeah, this is usually how it goes. It's a long and fun process that you get to be creative and try a lot of different things.
You mentioned the drawing board can be something like an iPad or a piece of paper. What is your go-to? Like, do you have a notebook where you scratch things out, or are you more digital? How do you approach that?
I'm definitely more digital. Once I bought an iPad, I never looked back. I just find it a lot more practical because you can kind of tweak things, and you can just grab, I don't know, like one line that you did in one drawing and bring to another, and and obviously it saves a little bit of time. And it is so much now that sometimes when I'm drawing on paper, I try to use the Ctrl Z command from the iPad on paper, and then I realized, oops, no, I cannot do that. So yeah, I'm definitely a digital person now.
That's awesome.
And a brand is something that a lot of companies will have for many, many years, sometimes even forever. So, how do you, as a designer, kind of make sure that it evolves and keeps up with the market and current trends, but still stays true to its core identity?
Yeah, it is a tricky one, I think. I think for all designers this is always a big challenge. But I think it's about not being afraid of taking risks sometimes, and following the trends and seeing where things are going, and really considering, okay, maybe we can experiment with this here, or a new color, a new type of illustration, something like that. But always keeping in mind what is your target audience, what is your values, the mission of the company, because those things don't change, right? They might evolve, they might tweak the words a little bit, but they are there, and they are the core of your company. So as long as you keep that in mind, you can play around with the elements around your brand. And sometimes it is time, for example, with Biteable, because we had like this big change on our target audience, then it was time to say, okay, we need a different look and feel. And one of the things, for example, was that something that is really trendy right now is gradients, and playing with different gradients and a little bit of noise. So that was something that we were like, right, we we want to include that in our new look and feel, because that feels modern, and it feels like it talks well with our audience, and also with our mission of being always up to date, being always helping people to be up to date, update their companies and all of that. So I think it's a little bit about that, is knowing when to take risks, but also um, keeping your values and your mission in your mind when you're doing that.
I love that. And you
Um,
mentioned Bitable's brand. Bitable's obviously a very video heavy company for pretty obvious reasons. Do you have to think differently or like take anything into consideration when you are designing assets that you know will be used in videos?
Yeah, I think you should. I think nowadays almost all brands they use video, right? Video is such a big part of our lives nowadays on social media and everything else, that you need to take that into consideration. I think considering creating variations for your logo, for example, if you have a logo that is usually horizontal, but you want a version that is stacked, or something that you can put it central on a screen for the video, things like that. It's good to have enough variations and elements that you can use on your videos, that will allow for some kind of flexibility, so the layouts can work. So for example, even because you have different time ratios for different videos, right? If you're doing a video for a story on Instagram or TikTok, is going to be a portrait video, but if you're doing it for YouTube, it's going to be a landscape one. So you need to have logo variations that will work for either option. And then other elements, like always good to have icons and things like that. And then I think we are kind of spoiled, because having Biteable and having the huge library of animations, we can always um, lean on to that to create our videos as well, which is really cool.
That's really neat.
Flavia, I'm always impressed with the amount of work that goes into redoing a brand from a designer perspective, and like how many things you have to think through. And you mentioned earlier that part of your process is doing that market research and analysis. I'm curious if you can maybe expand upon that a little bit. Like, what are you looking for in that market research? Are you trying to like think, what is trending? What is the competition doing? Do I stay away from that, or do I like approach it? I guess I'm just curious, how do you balance that? How do you think about that?
Oh, that's is a fine balance, I think, between you know following a trend a little bit. So you're not, because you want to be recognizable. You want people to look at your brand and see, oh, okay, this brand does this, like if you're creating a logo for a bank, you want them to look at you and say, oh, this is a bank, not, oh, okay, this is a restaurant, so you need to have that idea of what other brands that are in the market and offer similar services are doing, and what people kind of expect from brands like yours. But at the same time, you don't want to look just like everybody else. So I think that's where, again, like trying to find what is that makes you unique, what is it that makes you different from other competitors, is really important, not only as a business, but also for your brand to kind of shine a little bit different. So I think in Bitable's case, for example, even though we have a little bit of a more modern, clean look and feel now, we still have that kind of friendly like a little bit quirky vibe, and just like we're just your friendly neighbor that can help you to make videos. So I think it's about that. Like, even though we have, like it's white, it's clean, we have gradients and all of that, we still have kind of like the round corners that are a little bit more friendly. We have a font that is not super dry and just simple, and obviously then copy also comes to help a lot with that, because the way we write, our tone of voice is so particular and sometimes quite funny, and that helps a lot.
Nice.
We're coming up on the end of our time here, Flavia. Time flies, but I want to end. It's short and sweet. I want to end with a fun question, and you don't have to answer Biteable related, but do you have a favorite project that you've ever worked on, and can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, I was going to say the Biteable rebrand, but I feel we talked a lot about that already. So I don't repeat myself. I'm gonna say I did some time ago a little logo for my mom. She was starting like a little raw cake company, and sometimes working with family can be tricky. But at this time, I told her, "Mom, I'm doing this for free, so I'm just gonna do what I want to do." And obviously I saw about the market and what we were selling, and it had that whole kind of handmade, it's raw, it's natural kind of vibe. So obviously I wouldn't do anything that went away from that. But it was really nice to just have this freedom to kind of, just open Pinterest, look at other references and say, I want to create a brand that has this vibe. And so it was a really fun time at having that process and not having deadlines and all of that. So that was a cool little, just small project to work on, and it actually got a little bit of traction on Dribble, where I post some of my work. Like, it was
cool.
one of the ones that people saw the most on my profile, which is cool.
Oh, that's so cool. And was your mom, did she like the first version, or was she a very particular customer?
She liked it. I actually gave her 3 options, and she chose the one that I liked the most as well. But she asked to change the drawing, so I had to. So she wasn't like just, yes, this is perfect. She was still a little bit, she had to put her opinion in it, which is fair enough. It was her business. But yeah, it was nice to work on this project.
I love it. And shout out to your mom, who we know will be watching later on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hi,
Flavia,
Mom.
thank you so much for joining us today. Mike, thank you for joining me again. And we will be back next week with another episode of the Video Vantage. See you then.
Thanks, Haley.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Flavia.
Bye.